Story time. Think of all the people who brush their teeth. I, 25 female, used to work at one of those old historical hotels. It was a job, nothing more, and it paid the bills, but I never could have anticipated the horror that would unfold during my time there. It started like any other routine day for me, cleaning rooms and tidying up the place. That is until I got to the 14th floor. I went into a room where the guest should have been checked out, but there was stuff all over the place. It seemed like a girl was still staying in the room, so I thought maybe she decided to stay longer, and I didn't know. I didn't think much of it, and I continued on with my day. The next day, I checked to see if the girl checked out, and according to the system she had, but when I went up to the room, I felt an uneasy, sickening feeling in my stomach. Not only was the girl's stuff still in the room, but everything was in the exact spot as I saw it the day before. I felt really weird about it, but my manager told me to put all the girl's stuff in a bag and clean the room, so that's what I did. About a week later, the hotel started to have major problems with the water supply. Because it was an older hotel, the entire water supply came from 2 tanks on the roof. They had people come and check the tanks, but everything seemed fine. Throughout the next week, the water problems only got worse. Some rooms had a brown oozing liquid coming from the sink and tub, and others just had a weird murky colored water. The hotel continued to use the water for cooking and cleaning since there wasn't any other option. There was one day I got pretty hot and took a huge drink of water from the sink. Now when I think about that, I want to vomit everywhere. A month after I bagged up that stuff on the 14th floor, they found the girl it belonged to. She somehow fell into one of the water tanks and then couldn't get back out. I can't believe I used that water to clean and drink, and I can't help but think of all the people who brush their teeth. Story time. I'm still afraid of turning the light on. I used to work at this storage unit place until something happened that made me never want to go back. Part of my job was going into units that people were missing payments on and see what was inside. We had storage units inside and storage units outside. On this one day, I was supposed to check on 3 inside storage units that had late payments. It's usually something I don't mind, so I was completely unprepared for the trauma I experienced. I checked the first unit with no problem, but when I got to the second unit, the light on the wall wouldn't work. I couldn't see much of anything beyond the first 3 feet inside the unit, but I could make out what looked like a medical bed further in. I walked further into the storage unit to see if one of the other lights would work, but my feet started to stick to the floor. I still wasn't paying it much attention because I assumed someone spilled juice or something. I tried turning on the other light in the unit, and there was nothing. At this point, I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, so I used the flashlight on my phone to look around for the plug to the light. It's a decision I'll regret for the rest of my life. When I finally plugged the overhead light in and turned it on, I couldn't believe when I was seeing. There was a man wearing what looked like something a doctor would wear, covered in dark red stains. He wasn't moving, and I thought the worst, but as I reached out to touch him, his eyes flew open, and he immediately started to panic. In all of the chaos, he pushed me, and I fell into something sticky and squishy. When I looked down to see what it was, I found myself staring into lifeless eyes piled on the floor. I looked up just in time to see the man, dressed like a doctor, running out of the storage unit. There was a full investigation, and in total 12 people were taken out of the storage unit. I quit my job that day, and even though it's been almost a year, I'm still afraid of turning the light on. Story time. It was just a bowl. I used to have this friend named Eli that was really weird. He never did anything or said anything that made him weird, but he just gave off this vibe. I couldn't have been the only one to feel it because Eli could never make friends. We were in college at the time, and I had 3 classes with him, so I figured there was no harm in just being nice. It's something I will never forgive myself for. Our relationship started off as just an in-class relationship. We would do group projects together, study in the library, that sort of stuff. Then one day Eli invited me over to his place. As soon as I said yes, I immediately regretted it. I knew there was something really off about him, but I didn't want to be a jerk. The day came, and the whole time I was on my way to the address Eli gave me, my insides were screaming. Every part of me felt like I was walking into extreme danger. When I got there, Eli invited me in, and 10 minutes later, I was so nauseous because of the smell. It was a mixture of mold and something rotting. I guess I was making a face because Eli started to explain that a squirrel had gotten trapped in the wall. I was really uncomfortable, and I was trying to think of a good excuse to leave when Eli asked me if I wanted anything to eat. But the way he asked me, it made me feel like it wasn't a question, so I agreed. When Eli left me alone to go into the kitchen, I looked at the front door, and all I wanted to do was run. I should have, because when Eli came back, all the weird feelings and anxiety about being in danger made sense. In his hands, Eli held 2 bowls of cereal, but even from far away I could tell there was something really strange about the bowls. As Eli got closer, I could see the bowls were an odd shape. When he handed me the bowl of cereal, there was an immediate lump in my throat. I am 98% 100% sure that what I was holding was a human skull. Inside I was screaming, and I wanted to run, but I knew if I wanted to make it out of that house, I had to act like everything was fine. So I did. I pretended the cereal was delicious, and it was just a bowl. Storytime Lucky Charm. I, 22, female and pretty active, and I'm always running, hiking, or something. I used to go running at night in the nearby park by myself all the time, until something happened that scared me so much, I've never done it again. It started out like any other run, and even though I would go for night runs, I'm not completely crazy. I always wear my headphones, but I never play music. This way I can make the sounds around me louder. Well, this night I was running, and I thought I heard a weird noise. At first, I thought it might be an animal, but then it went from whimpering to gurgling. It could have been anything, but even though the noise wasn't really threatening, my whole body tensed up. I stood at the edge of the track, and I tried to see what was making the sound. It was for sure coming from the trees just beyond the trail I was on. As I leaned further into the trees, I heard something that almost made me turn and sprint home. I could have sworn I heard a woman's voice gurgle, "Help me." I was terrified, but I thought maybe she had somehow gotten hurt and I didn't want to leave her there. So I started to make my way through the trees. I didn't know how far in she was or what direction to go, but I just kept walking forward, following the sounds of wheezing and gurgling the best I could. As I made my way through the trees, I started to feel more and more unease creep in. Then, without warning, I kicked something. It wasn't hard like a branch, but it also didn't feel like dirt. I tried to strain and listen for the girl I was hearing, but there was nothing. I wanted to feel what I kicked with my hand, even though the voice in my head was screaming danger. As I reached down, my keys fell out of my pocket and hit something, but the sound it made sent a wave of fear through me that made my knees buckle. Whatever I kicked had moved. I wanted to grab my keys, but I was so afraid I ran, and it's a good thing I did, because what I learned a week later still makes my blood run cold. An escaped patient from a criminally insane facility was found living in the very same park I was in. When they showed the view of where he was, I counted 6 body bags laying on the ground. Peeking from underneath one of the body bags was the lucky charm I keep on my keys. Storytime. I saw the whole thing. I always hear people say you never truly know someone, and now I know how true that is. My best friend, Emily, had always been a bit weird, but I never expected to see her do something so twisted. It was a dark secret she thought was well hidden, but one night I caught her, and she still has no idea I know. One night, I was supposed to be at Emily's house for a sleepover, but her parents were away for the weekend, so she came over instead. She used to come over all the time, but out of nowhere her parents said she wasn't allowed to go to anyone's house. Not just mine either, no one's. I thought it was super strange, but I didn't care. I was just glad she could come over this one time. Emily was fine at first, but then I noticed she started acting strange. She was really jumpy. She kept looking around, and it didn't seem like she was happy to be there. I thought that was weird enough, but then the level of bizarre went from 10 to 100. Emily asked to use the bathroom, and we were right by a half bathroom, so I pointed to it and said yeah, sure. Emily got way more agitated than normal, and aggressively told me no, she wouldn't use that bathroom. Again, it was weird, but I figured she had to fart or something, and didn't want me to hear. I told her she could use the bathroom in my room, and that's when it got even weirder. Emily was gone for like 30 minutes, so I went to check on her. She said she was fine but stayed in the bathroom for another 30 minutes. When she finally got out of the bathroom, she seemed more like herself, and we started to have fun, but it didn't last long. Not even an hour later, she was doing the same fidgety, strange stuff she was doing before. I got even more confused when she asked to use the bathroom again but refused to use the half bathroom or my bathroom. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so I let her use the guest bathroom. After she was in there for 20 minutes, I got really curious, and I needed to know what she was doing in there. I knew I shouldn't spy, but my heart sank as I realized